5 most bizarre mental disorders. Cotard syndrome. One of the striking characteristics of this syndrome is a delusion of grandeur turned inside out. The person believes that he or parts and organs of his body are already dead, rotten, decayed, or simply absent. In Cotard syndrome, the person believes his body is rotting and decaying. A person with Cotard syndrome is often convinced that he is doing catastrophic harm to mankind, that he has infected everyone with a terrible infection, poisoned or completely wiped mankind off the face of the earth, that his putrid breath will soon make the planet extinct. Munchausen syndrome. Named after the famous liar, this syndrome is characterized by pathological lies about one's state of health. The person exaggerates, feigns, or deliberately induces symptoms of illness. The person goes to great lengths to obtain medical procedures of varying complexity, up to and including surgery, insurance payments, foundation support, and, most importantly, support, sympathy, attention, and assistance from others. A related disorder, Munchausen syndrome by proxy, is when a relative causes a loved one to have symptoms of illness. The mother has spent her entire life suggesting to the child, and those around her, that she is seriously ill. An example of the magnitude and tragedy of this disorder is the story of D.D. Blanchard and her daughter, Gypsy. Last year, the mother had spent her entire life suggesting to her child that she was seriously ill with a whole bouquet of serious diseases, ranging from epilepsy to muscular dystrophy. The daughter, who had grown up, could not stand it and encouraged the young man to kill her mother. She is now under investigation and has no symptoms of any of the diseases she had. Hanser syndrome. This syndrome resembles Munchausen syndrome in that the person's internal anxiety is transformed into demonstrative, defiant, inadequate behavior that is directed at others. Its other name is hysterical psychosis. It was first described by the German psychiatrist Hanser in a man who was under investigation. The disorder is still more common today, when a person's social status is threatened by something, for example, a trial. But it can also be mobilization to the active army, or even a sudden breakup of a relationship. In this syndrome, the person behaves childishly, sits on the floor, plays with surrounding objects, answers simple questions incorrectly, for example, confuses left and right, cannot get dressed, forgets how to eat. Strangely enough, the person understands the speech addressed to him or her, but speaks or does everything as if past. Sometimes it comes to feralness. The person gets on all fours, barks water from a bowl, barks, howls, and tries to bite people around. After the attack, the person has no memory of what happened to him or her. This syndrome is incredibly rare. It is hardly ever mentioned in movies or feature films. On the other hand, maybe we just don't have a good idea of what happens to a person who is facing prison. Fregeli syndrome. This syndrome is named after the actor Leopold Fregeli, who was able to change his appearance masterfully. A person with this unusual mental disorder is convinced that his acquaintance, more often a stalker, an enemy, an ill-wisher, is hiding in other people. He just wants to remain unrecognized. Therefore, he constantly changes his appearance and disguises himself. In Fregeli syndrome, a crowd of people in the street turns into a horde of enemies, where the stalker constantly moves and changes his or her appearance. This syndrome is a variation of Capgras syndrome, in which the opposite is true. The person is convinced that his loved one, such as his wife or child, has been replaced by a double who has skillfully imitated his appearance and mannerisms. Multiple personality. Dissociative identity disorder, which everyone knows as multiple personality disorder. A syndrome many consider the holy grail of psychiatry. Everyone has heard of it, it is the official diagnosis in the disease classifiers, but few have seen it. Supposedly because of a strong psychic trauma in childhood, a person seems to internally split into several personalities. More often than two, can be 30, they are of different sex, age, with different facial expressions, habits, each often has a different handwriting and even different physiological indicators. These subpersonalities don't know about each other, or only know about some of them. Switching between the personalities, one forgets what has just happened to one's alter ego. At the same time, switching between different personas can be caused by different external events.